All right. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the first episode of Wine, Women, and Words in 2026. This is the first episode of the new year, and it's on a Monday. So it's going to be a really great episode, I feel like. It's going to be a lot of fun. And with me, of course, well, I'm Michelle. I guess I should start with that. And with me, as always, is Diana.
Hello.
And we have author Crystal King back with us. Thank you so much for making some time for us and coming back to chat with us about books again. We're very happy to have you.
Super excited.
And I have to say, I'm obsessed with your red armchair behind you.
Oh, yeah. I'm a big fan of red. I actually have another one right behind me too. There's two.
You do. I love it.
Yeah,
It looks like it's such a cozy place to sit and read or write.
it is. It's very cozy. My office is awesome. I love it. Yeah.
So, we are here today to talk about your latest book, which is The Collector of Happiness. So, for our listeners who aren't yet familiar with it, can you give us an overview of what it's about?
It's the Happiness Collector, actually.
Great. See, off to a really great start.
And
That's
it's a
okay.
story about ancient Greek gods wreaking havoc on the world.
Do we want to start that one part that over again, Michelle?
I
Do
kind
you
of
want
feel
me to
like
do or
we
you just
should
want to leave
just
it
like run with it. We we have
in?
I'll just, I'll cry at the end of this episode when we stop recording. But we have author Crystal King with us, who is here to talk about her latest book, The Happiness Collector. So, for our listeners who may not yet be familiar with it, can you give us an overview of what the story is about?
Yeah, it's a story about this historian, this woman named Aida Reale, and she has just lost her academic job, and her she's getting ready to get married, and but just suddenly there's she's wondering how they're going to pay for this wedding, and she decides to take a short-term position in Italy in a very strange historical kind of job that she thought, okay, I'm just doing it 3 months and then I'll come back. I get to hang out in Rome. So she decides to do it. But she's there and she starts to realize that maybe this job isn't exactly what she thought it would be. And as her relationship with her ex or her fiance, I should say, becomes closer and closer to becoming an ex-fiance, and things in the world start getting weirder and weirder. Um, uh, yeah, I just that's kind of it. So, but she starts to notice that some of the places that she is going to and recording, her job is to record happiness about the places that she's visiting. But some of them start to disappear. So that's my spoiler for you all.
So I was trying in the early in the novel when she's presented with this job and she learns about it. I was listening to it on audiobook while I was walking my dog, trying to think exactly how long it would take me to say yes. Like I think 30 seconds was where I landed for this job that you're gonna stay in this gorgeous palazzo, like literally a palazzo, and have all expenses paid and a chef and a whole staff for you to just sit there and research in Rome and all these beautiful places. So how long would you have taken to say yes if you had gotten that job offer?
Oh well, I would do what my character did and do a little bit of due diligence to make sure this wasn't going to be some huge scam. And
Fair.
but once I discovered that it wasn't a huge scam, I would be on it in 2 seconds. Um, yeah, she gets to stay in this incredible place, which I based off of the Sacchetti Palazzo, which is a palazzo on the Via Giulia, and it's just this very gorgeous palazzo that was for sale during the time that I was writing the novel for like
Really?
24 million euro or something like that.
Oh
And
my
Oh,
gosh.
pennies.
yeah.
Pennies.
So
I can get that money
yeah,
from my couch.
yeah. So that's what I based this place she's staying on this incredible palazzo in Rome. You can't visit it. I got to see all the real estate photos is what helped me out there. Yeah.
You gotta love Zoom or not Zoom, Zillow for that.
Yeah.
They that really helps with that.
Yeah.
When we were looking for our house, I really, my husband would look at houses that were like just outside of our ceiling. But one of my favorite things to do was to look at the places that were so far outside our budget and send them to him. And he's like, "What are you doing? We can't afford this." I'm like, "I know, but look how beautiful." I would have sent him that house.
Yeah.
And look, 24 million. We could make it work.
It's
Yeah.
interesting. So for my previous book in the Garden of Monsters, was no, actually not for that. For a book that my editor has, I should say. My editor's like cross your fingers that she might want it. I set it partially at Caudario, which Diana is familiar with. It's this palazzo in Venice, and it's cursed, and it's been cursed for centuries, and all the way up until like the manager for the Who wanted to live in it, or he did live in it. He bought it and he lived in it, and it was so creepy. He ended up living in the garden, sleeping in the garden, and then he died of everybody that's lived in it has died of financial ruin or bankruptcy or was murdered or things like that. And
Yikes.
he went bankrupt, and then he died in a car crash a few months after he left the like finally got out of the palazzo. So it's been cursed for centuries.
Oh my gosh.
And it was on sale, I think, for 18 million during the time that I was writing the novel that my editor's looking at. And it was the real estate photos because I was, even if I could go in there, I wouldn't go in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Okay. So another book to
Houses
look
have
forward
energies
to.
and reputations,
Yeah.
and you don't mess with some of these
Nope.
houses. You're like, no.
No, I changed the name in the book that I wrote. I just based it on this house. Yeah.
So in this story, you had to not only come up with your plot and your storyline, but then you also had to create kind of these lines of research for Aida, both for MODA, which is the organization that she ends up working for, and also for her personal research, and make them sound like, viable research topics that a professional historian would want to look into. So how did you approach kind of creating not just the storyline, but also these avenues that Aida would have to go down in her professional career for that job?
Well, for me, this is kind of a love letter to Rome, which is a city of my heart. And I was really interested in the places that a lot of tourists are not as familiar with the exception of the cover, which is has the Colosseum on it, which we
Mm.
can talk about how the cover came about because I think that's
Yes.
an interesting story. And but most of the places that Aida is going to, not just in Rome, but also in other parts of Italy. And there's some places actually in Boston and in London that feature in, but they were places that I personally found really interesting or that just weren't as familiar to people. So the book starts out in the first place that she goes to is the Goethe Museum, which is a little tiny museum near the Piazza del Popolo in Rome. And most people don't even know it's there. It's really off the beaten path. It has all sorts some really cool art in it. And yeah, so for me, that's what was interesting is finding ways to bring these places to life in a way that maybe other books hadn't.
Mhm.
There are also places that have a lot of history, all of them do. And so for her to go and find out what about these places makes people feel excited to be in them, is something that I was also interested in. When you go to a place that you've never been to before in another country and you're walking through with such wonder, that's the kind of thing that Aida was collecting essentially, is this idea of wonder and happiness that people feel in these places.
Hmm.
I
And
don't know.
since you brought it up, I want to talk about, can we talk about the cover now, or do you want to give it
Yeah,
a
sure,
question,
sure.
Michelle?
No, no.
Someone,
Let's talk about that.
because I am totally intrigued about how the cover came about, because it's such a
I,
cool, like, interesting cover. I like it.
Yeah, so the cover is has her stand has a woman standing on the
Hmm.
crumbling palazzo, or crumbling Colosseum, I should say, not a palazzo. And when I was doing the research, I mean, doing the last edit, I was doing the last edit. My editor was at the same time starting to work on the cover with the artist. And my publisher has been very good about involving me in the cover. I chose the narrator for the audio narrator for the book. I was able to have a lot of say in the direction artistically, which a lot of publishers don't allow their authors to do. So I feel really fortunate. And so she was asking me, well, in your book, most of these places people don't know. They're not going to recognize. They're not going to recognize the Goethe Museum. They're not going to recognize this carport in Florence that I wrote about. They're not going to recognize these strange off the beaten places. And I thought, well, I could put something into the book that would work. And I thought about it and I was like, I'll do something with the Colosseum. I will make something happen to the Colosseum. And so I wrote a whole scene, which turns out to be a fairly pivotal scene in the novel. The Colosseum scene in the book I wrote specifically so that we had a really cool
oh,
cover,
cool.
and they did not disappoint on the cover.
So
It's a,
oh, sorry. It's cover related. It's cover related. Um,
okay.
I on the cover you have the golden L that she's pulling down. And it just, when you held it up, it made me flash to the scene very early in the book. I'm about a quarter of the way through, so I haven't finished everything. But there's a scene when she's in her job interview where she has the golden apple on top of the bowl of apples. Is there a tie-in that we're going to discover later on, or is that just coincidence?
I think that's a little coincidence, or maybe
Okay.
the art director took inspiration from that.
Okay.
It's very possible, but those golden apples are important. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
I
All
mean,
right.
important in a small way.
Oh,
They're symbolic.
okay. All right. I kind of they stuck out in my mind, so I was like, file that away. Okay, go Diana, your turn.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was just gonna say I love it when the publishers do get involved with you and talk to you about the cover. Where I had to laugh with for my book that's coming out, I didn't know what I wanted for my cover, but I knew what I didn't want. And so I basically told them what I didn't want and what books I liked in the genre, what covers I liked in the genre. And I was like, and here's a bunch of, I did like a whole like photo dump of like pictures that I sent to them. And I was like, here, go for it. Do what you want to do. And so then they came back with with the cover. But yeah, I love it when they get into like the book and they like really
Yeah.
get it.
It's nice because my previous publisher did not. I mean, I did have some input, but like for
Mhm.
the cover of my first novel, Feast of Sorrow, the original cover of it looked like a racy romance novel. And it's a tragedy. It's a Roman tragedy. I killed 19 people in that book. And it's not a racy romance. It's just a tragedy. And so I had to do some fighting to get the cover that was more appropriate for that novel.
I think that might be one of those things that people would be surprised to learn that authors, and same with titles, that authors
Yep.
don't always have control over what the ultimate title of their book is that sometimes they do, sometimes they're involved, or sometimes it's just completely out of their hands.
I don't, so I've had friends who Barnes and Noble or Walmart has decided that they didn't like the cover or the title and made the publisher change it.
I've heard
That's,
about that with Barnes and Noble, but I haven't heard about that with Walmart.
yeah, Walmart. They've got a lot of buying power.
Oh, I didn't know
Interesting.
that. That's
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I never
So
expected them to have a lot of buying power when it came to books.
I don't, I think some of those big box retailers are reducing the number of books that they sell in store. So I don't know if that's
Hmm.
still the same this year, but like Costco is another big book buyer or has been traditionally. So a
They
lot of
used to be.
yeah, so a lot of the and Target, yeah, so they
Hmm.
do sell a lot of books in store, which is
Hmm.
you think about it.
Hmm.
We probably don't buy books like that because but a lot of average people that's how they buy their books and don't
Hmm.
realize that the number of books that are going through there means that those buyers at those stores have a lot of pull in what they think will be best sold on their shelves.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And like I know with Barnes and Noble, they had a buyer there for the longest time who didn't like green book covers. So if you had a green book cover, you had to change it. And we had this whole
So
discussion.
they wouldn't have liked my cover.
No, well, yours is
It's
more
kind of
blue. I wouldn't say
aqua.
it's aqua. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like green, like the shirt I'm wearing, like the dark green. They didn't like that. They didn't like the color. And I had the paperback for Antoinette's Sister was like a almost like a turquoise kind of.
Mm.
It was off
Oh, that's
green.
right.
And I had this whole discussion with the publisher and with my agent, and I was like, "Hey, I have heard this from people. Can we be sure that this is going to be an okay?" And they're like, that's a good point. They're like, that person's not there anymore, but let's go double check with Barnes and Noble before we print this. They're like, good idea. And so they're like, okay, we're good.
That's so funny. Wow. That's
Yeah.
pretty specific.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, your cover is beautiful.
Yeah.
And
I really love my cover. The artist who did it is amazing. Yeah.
and the
And I look at the
narrator
cover
of
and
the
I think it's such a
audiobook.
fun cover.
Oh,
It's a fun cover.
It is. It definitely grabs your attention. And what I also love about it is that there's these, it has the background is very
Mm-hmm.
much like the background of like a Roman mosaic floor that
mhm.
Yeah.
you might find, which I really love.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, I apologize because I know I'm getting notifications coming through on my iPad and I have absolutely no idea how to turn off the notification
I'm
sound.
not seeing him.
Oh,
You
No,
know.
okay.
can't hear
You're
him,
not
can't see
hearing the
him.
ding?
Yep.
No.
Oh,
Hmm.
thank God. Okay. I was like,
Yeah,
I don't
Zoom's
know
got
how to.
good background suppression. You
Oh,
probably can't hear
well,
if your dogs are barking unless they're right next to you. You probably wouldn't hear them either.
oh, well, good to
Yeah.
know.
Hmm.
So okay, so now going back to the story, so I love the idea of this, the idea that she's collecting happiness, and this is her specific assignment. Her first assignment for Moda is Goethe, like you mentioned, the museum. And so she has to read his work and jot down any time he mentions happiness or take note of anything that makes her happy when she's studying his work. And it's just such a unique premise. So where did that idea come from for you?
Originally, I wanted it to be that it was artifact related. And
Mhm.
somewhere along the line, I started writing, and this is what ended up coming out of it instead. And I thought, okay, this is not something anyone's really ever collected before.
Mhm.
Also, I was writing it during a time when, well, I would say we've had a lot of turmoil in our world in the last couple of years. Not so much as we've had this year, but in general, in the time frame that I was writing it, it was post-COVID, like a year or two after. I had personally, I was kind of dealing with some personal things that weren't making me happy, and I started thinking about like what in the world, what does make you happy, and what would happen if if you didn't you the places that you loved suddenly weren't there anymore. And I I thought that was really interesting, because we attach so much to these places. Um, so there's a very brief mention in the book, so this doesn't spoil that much, about Notre Dame and the
Mhm.
fire, because it takes place during the same time frame that that occurred. And
Okay.
I remember when I was actually getting off a plane in Boston after being in Rome. And I've not at that time I had never been to Paris. I've been there since, but um and everyone on the plane was whipping out their phones and flipping on the Wi-Fi when we
Mhm.
landed. And all of a sudden the whole plane is just like Notre Dame is on fire. And I was in this place in this plane where everyone was just aghast at this building, like the collapsing, and people were talking, just everybody was so upset about it. And I thought that was so interesting that people were so sad about this place that brought them so much meaning. And so that to me was like the crux of this novel is, what happens when those places that have given you meaning start to disappear, or they're gone for some reason. And what happens if somebody is making that happen? You know? Yeah, I had somebody at one of my recent readings mention that what they liked about the novel was that in a time frame like we're in right now, that we feel so out of control about um, all sorts of things that are occurring around us, that this book helped them feel a little bit better because there suddenly was an explanation for all the awfulness in the world. There was an explanation in the novel about why the awful things were happening. And I was like, well, I wish there was probably a real motive in that somebody could thwart in our time frame, but I don't know.
But that's such a wonderful compliment for the book and for your writing
Mhm.
Yeah.
that it was able to help bring them comfort because shit's weird right now in this country.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no other way around it.
Yeah. And I mean, and speaking of weirdness, like I decided to include COVID in the book.
Hmm.
And that was something my editor wasn't sure I should do. I definitely have had some reviews like, I really like this book, but when we got to the COVID part, I had to put it down. I have had a
Hmm.
couple people that say that. But I really struggled. Should I include it? At the time when I was writing the book, we were much closer to it. This is a couple years ago when I was in the middle of writing it. We were on the other side, and people were starting to travel, and people weren't wearing masks anymore. But that it was still so fresh in our minds.
Hmm.
And I thought, if there was any one collective thing that everybody in our world has gone through that has stolen happiness. I mean, we
Mhm.
have lived through this strange thing that like just extracted happiness from
Yeah.
millions upon millions of people. I thought I can't not include that. It just
Hmm.
Mhm.
so I made a really tough decision there on, how do I incorporate that? How do I include it? And it was hard to go back and write about that time.
Mhm.
I find it so absolutely interesting that that was a review on that, and yeah, it's a really good point. And I at some point we're going to have to collectively talk
I'm
about it
sure it
and
was
share
somebody who probably
stories about it.
lost somebody that they loved. I'm
Yeah,
sure that's
a
probably what
lot
it
of them
was.
did. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think there's, post COVID, I feel like for authors who are writing perhaps during that time frame, you have like the set in the world that we experience where it happened, or to set it in a world where it never happened, and to, write down that alternate timeline. There's that kind of split between authors, well, and for various reasons, for many, many reasons, I'm sure.
Yeah, I almost went the path of just ignoring it, but I
Mhm.
thought this is an opportunity to, I mean, again, to like steal all the happiness. Like,
Hmm.
and it happens closer towards the end of the book. as we're starting to get towards the climax of the novel is when the COVID period happens. And to be clear, it's not, and you guys can back me up on
Yeah.
this. It's not the whole book. It's just a piece of
No.
it. It's not going
Right.
to totally overwhelm the majority of people. I don't think this is a sad book at all. So,
No, it's not a sad book at all. It's definitely not. I read it a while back, and it's not a sad book. It's a fun book, and it's not. Yeah, and the COVID part's just that's a small piece of it, and I feel like I don't know, maybe it's a historical fiction author in me, but it's a part of our history that we can't look
mhm.
away from, we can't gloss over, and I feel like was it during the last pandemic that our country had? I feel like we kind of glossed over it. And I think we lost some of that collective remembrance of there being this pandemic where people had to wear masks.
Yeah.
And and I don't th and I think we need to be able to hang on to a little bit of that sorrow, at least projecting it forward into literature so that we have this collective memory because it was such a big collective memory that we all had.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think people forget about history. I mean, we watch this over and over. History
Hmm.
repeats. I mean, I think that that pandemic was like 1910 or something. It was somewhere.
No, it was post World War II. It was pre the 1920s. I would say it was by 1918, 1920. It
Okay,
was the flu
post
pandemic.
World War One. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And and you can go back and you can find information, writings about it. But I remember when people were posting about it, about how people had to wear masks and people did not want to wear masks back then either.
Hmm.
Like, you know,
Hmm.
we just repeated, we just went back
Hmm.
and relived it. And let's
Yep.
hope we don't relive some of the other things that we should be learning from. Let's just keep,
That's so true. Very
yeah,
true.
yeah, let's keep that.
Yeah.
And then, so, and I know we're just about at our half hour, but am really curious. I know you are you're a historical fiction writer with The Feast of Sorrows and The Chef's Secret, and then your last two books have had a fantasy twist to it. But this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first book that you've written that was in modern times with
Yep.
the fantasy element to it. So was there anything kind of unexpected during your writing experience of bringing your writing into a modern setting, when you maybe more used to, days gone
Yes,
by?
definitely. A couple things. I found it a lot harder to write in some ways because I didn't have a timeline that's historical that I'm just filling in the gaps. That's what I love about writing historical fiction is I'm filling in all the gaps between what we know with
Mhm.
the stuff we don't know. This time I had to make it all up. And so I found that both freeing and exciting, but also hard, because I didn't have a framework to build upon. And then the other thing that I have decided that I should never say never, but I'm not excited about doing this ever again is writing with modern technology is extraordinarily difficult. I really have so much more admiration for mystery and thriller writers that are writing in modern day because the technology avoidance because now your phone knows exactly where you are. It can hear you. It can, see what you're doing. It can track you wherever you go, and that's not very useful when you're trying to have your characters avoid the villains. And if the villains are gods, it makes it even harder. So, I don't. I think I will always probably gravitate more towards books that are set during a time frame that is before cell phones. Yeah.
You said never say never, so you know it's going to happen, right?
Oh,
I
probably.
just want to let you know. You said you were like,
I'm not keen
never
on it
say,
though.
well, never say never. It's going to happen now. You've cursed yourself. It's the writer's curse. It's going to
The
happen
book
now.
I'm working on right now is set in 1981 in Rome, and it's awesome. I love it because I remember what life was like with regular telephones, and that nobody could find you, and that brings its own challenges.
Hmm.
Oh, I love that. I'm having a good time with that.
Well, we'll have to keep an eye out. That was the one that is set on the setting was based on the cursed house, but not
Nope,
the actual.
I'm a book beyond that one
Oh,
now.
oh, okay,
Oh yeah.
okay. Well,
Yeah,
two books to look
Yeah,
forward
it's
to.
I have a book that my editor is hopefully she's reviewing now, but I'm already working on this other one that's set in Rome in 1981.
you're
I
on
think my books will
fire,
always
man.
have probably have some Italy in it because just that's where my heart's at.
Well, we'll keep our eyes out for that one. And for anyone who would like to pick up a copy of The Happiness Collector, be sure to check out the link in our show notes. You can visit our bookshop on bookshop.org and get your own copy. For I've completely just forgot my whole little spiel. Our bookshop.org supports our incredible writers. It supports the podcast, but most importantly, it supports all of the wonderful indie bookstores that are out there. And Crystal, you're just going to have to come back for the next two books that you just
I would really be
mentioned.
happy to do that.
And I will get the title right on the intro for those.
Excellent.
Never say never, my friend.
I didn't say never, I said I would. So it will happen. I'm manifesting it. Thank you so much for making some time for us tonight, Crystal. It was so much fun having you back.
Yeah, thank you again for having me. Love talking
Of
with you
course.
guys.
Have a good night.
You too. Take care.
Bye.